Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this could be episode 215 for you guys today. And we're going to kick things off discussing what's going on in the NBA world inside NBA free agency. So, the NBA season is behind us. It's written in the chapter books, and now we're fast forwarding to the NBA free agency. So, I'll be going over every biggest move or every biggest detail that I've seen thus far and we've all seen thus far in NBA free agency. So starting off with one of the biggest headlines of NBA free agency was a few days ago where the Milwaukee Bucks did waive Damian Lillard and they released Damian Lillard. Now, it's crazy that the Milwaukee Bucks decided to waive Damian Lillard. They waived him, and the Bucks will owe Damian Lillard over $22 million a year for the next 5 years. That's taking a solid hit to their cap space for the next 5 seasons after releasing Damian Lillard, one of the best guards that this generation has seen. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on what the Milwaukee Bucks are currently doing. It's wild to me that the Milwaukee Bucks have honestly decided to waive Damian Lillard after he just tore his Achilles in the first round against the Indiana Pacers. And this man, Damian Lillard, dies by loyalty. You saw all the years that he gave in his prime, mind you, all the years in his prime to the Portland Trailblazers. In his heart, he truly believed he could have brought Portland an NBA title when he played with one of his best friends, CJ McCollum. That never happened and never materialized. So then he got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks a year or so ago, or nearly 2 years now, to play alongside Giannis. And they didn't really make an impactful run in the 2 years they played. And the experiment has fallen apart. But honestly, where is the love? Where's the loyalty? Because Damian Lillard did rush back from a blood clot that he was suffering in his leg 30, 40 days later to play and help the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. They ended up releasing him. And now the Bucks starting five, it doesn't make this team better after releasing Damian Lillard. And I know he was going to play next year, but the starting five now, you have Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Kyle Kuzma, unhappy Giannis, and Miles Turner that you just spent the money on to get Miles Turner. But at what cost? It does make them I wouldn't say better, but I guess roster-wise, the move makes them a little better. But looking at this team, they did lose Brook Lopez. You just released Damian Lillard. And Giannis is not happy with this at all. Giannis can still request a trade and be traded by the end of the summer or before the NBA season begins. So if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you took a step back in the wrong direction if you wanted to be a contending team in the Eastern Conference that is depleted with injuries right now. And mind you, the only teams that are going to compete for titles next year in the East with all these injuries across the board is going to be the New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I don't want to say the Philadelphia 76ers because they have their history of injuries themselves out there in Philly. But the Milwaukee Bucks, this move does not make you better releasing Damian Lillard. You lost Brook Lopez. And yes, you brought in Miles Turner, but at what cost? Because you're using some of the money that was there after the Damian Lillard release to throw at Miles Turner. And this has to be a slap in the face also to the Indiana Pacers because we know the history and the rivalry that's been built over the last 2 years in the first round between the Bucks and the Pacers. Now you just watch one of your best players in Miles Turner walk to the Milwaukee Bucks, So this is kind of mind-boggling to me, but those are my thoughts on the Bucks moves and them releasing Damian Lillard. And speaking of a former Bucks player, let's talk about Brook Lopez signing with the Los Angeles Clippers. He did sign a 1-year deal to play in LA with the Clippers. And to be honest, I think this is a really solid pickup by the Los Angeles Clippers. They get Brook Lopez, who is still a good center in the league in his late 30s now. And he is going to have a scaled-down role with the Los Angeles Clippers. They're not asking him to be a starter every night. He's going to come off the bench and be a solid rotation player for this Los Angeles Clippers team next year. And Lopez actually fits well with the timeline of the Clippers being in a win-now mode because by the time his contract expires in a year or two, players like Kawhi Leonard's contract's going to be up, James Harden's contract is going to be up, and several other players. So he actually fits well in the timeline for the next 1 or 2 seasons. And with Lopez being a part of this roster, depending on who they play nightly in the Western Conference, that has a lot of size with teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Nuggets I'll get into, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and several other teams that have the size advantage over some other teams in the Western Conference. In certain lineups, you can have Zubac play at the center and Brook Lopez play at the power forward position, running 2 bigs in the starting 5. So that could help them matchup-wise against teams in the Western Conference next year. I like the pickup of the Clippers getting Brook Lopez. Oh, and then let's talk about the Denver Nuggets moves that they made so far in the offseason. Earlier in the week, they traded for Michael Porter Jr. and traded Michael Porter Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets in an unprotected 2032 first round pick in exchange for Cam Johnson. So what the Denver Nuggets are doing, I'm liking. And the Denver Nuggets right now are going to be a scary team in the Western Conference. I love everything they're doing in the NBA offseason thus far, especially during free agency. And I think this is a win. That Michael Porter Jr. and that Cam Johnson trade was a win. Cam Johnson's a really good player, and he averaged 18 points per game with the Brooklyn Nets last year, and he brings a lot to the table offensively. He's an effective three-point shooter, good mid-range shooter. I think playing with the best player on the planet right now, Nikola Jokic, who likes to get his teammates involved passing the ball, I think he's going to bring the best offensive abilities out of Cam Johnson. So I think this is a win-win trade. And Michael Porter Jr. can contribute offensively for the Brooklyn Nets, whatever they have in store for their future over there in the Eastern Conference. But they actually did clear up space, trading away Michael Porter Jr. and getting Cam Johnson in return. And they also brought back Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown played a big part with this team, winning their only championship in franchise history a few years ago. That was actually the best ball that he played that year in Denver when they won a championship. They also require Jonas Valanciunas. They also acquired Tim Hardaway Jr. They are loaded with depth in the Western Conference next year. I think the Denver Nuggets are going to be a scary team. I like everything that they're doing. I don't want to claim a winner just yet in the Western Conference for free agency, but if I had a top three in teams, the Denver Nuggets right now are making a lot of smart moves to contend and continue to compete for an NBA title in the Western Conference, and especially keep Nikola Jokic happy playing with the Denver Nuggets for the next few years to contend for another title. Next move that stood out to me was the Detroit Pistons acquiring Duncan Robinson. And Duncan Robinson agreed to a 3-year deal to sign with the Detroit Pistons, a deal that is up to $48 million to sign with the Detroit Pistons. Now, this is a good pickup by the Pistons, and shout out to my guy, Manny Wilson, who is the host of the Run podcast, rubbed it in my face that me being a Miami Heat fan, that Duncan Robinson is going out of Miami, and we let him walk away. And he signed with the Detroit Pistons. I think that's a massive pickup for the Pistons. Adding Duncan Robinson, who is an effective three-point shooter, holds the record for the most three-point shots made in Miami Heat history. He was a part of some huge runs that the Miami Heat went on over the last few years in the Eastern Conference with his offensive shooting. And he also will come off the bench for Ausar Thompson. So I think that's going to be huge for the Detroit Pistons moving forward. And to be honest, it sucks for the Miami Heat because they had several chances, several opportunities to move off of Duncan Robinson. Then he could have Pat Riley could have used him as trade bait while the iron was hot in 2020. I mean, you could have used it for trade bait to acquire superstars like James Harden or Kyrie Irving a few years ago to bring to South Beach to play with the Miami Heat and help Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero contend for a title. But you didn't do it, and now you just watch Duncan Robinson, an effective three-point shooter that still gave this team offensive juice, walk away free agency, and you gain nothing by watching him go to the Detroit Pistons. I mean, I think it was a small sign and trade deal, but the Miami Heat didn't get anything really special in return. But hey, that's how the NBA works. I think that's a massive pickup for them. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, I like the fact that they signed D'Angelo Russell to a deal. They signed D'Angelo Russell to a 2-year, $13 million deal to play with the Dallas Mavericks over the next few years. And I think this is a good pickup for them at the guard position because Kyrie Irving is still recovering from a torn ACL injury. And I think D'Angelo Russell is a good quality starter to start in position for Kyrie Irving until he returns to the second half of the NBA season, or depending on how the Mavericks go or how their season goes, they hold off Kyrie Irving until the playoffs when he comes back healthy. But D'Angelo Russell is still a good shot creator and a good at getting his teammates involved. He's not what he used to be. I think his peak years, he's already peaked in the NBA. But the Mavericks, when healthy, they could be a really good, solid team in the Western Conference. And when healthy, they're going to have Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Cooper Flagg, the number 1 overall pick from this 2025 draft, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, D'Angelo Russell, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. This is a really good team that, when healthy, can compete in the Western Conference. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Dallas Mavericks could do when they put it all together and everybody's healthy on the court for them. We'll see if this Luka Doncic trade was really worth it in the end for Nico Harrison. So we'll see how this plays out. Looking at what the Houston Rockets are doing, I'm telling you guys, I said it last week when Kevin Durant was traded to Houston. I said the Rockets, when healthy, they're serious contenders in the Western Conference. With this roster next year healthy, they can win 55 to 60 games or even more than 60 games next year in the Western Conference if they're truly healthy throughout the 82 game stretch. But I like the moves that they've done in free agency. They stole Dorian Finney-Smith away from the Los Angeles Lakers. He's a good defensive player. They also traded for Kevin Durant. They have a stacked starting five next year in the Western Conference. They're going to have Fred VanVleet at point guard, Amen Thompson at shooting guard, Dorian Smith, I would throw him at shooting guard. I would throw Kevin Durant at power forward, and I would have Sengun at center. Plus, you would have some big men to contribute in a Western Conference that has size. Steven Adams coming off the bench, and they also signed and brought back to the H-Town Clint Capella. So I think the Rockets should go after a veteran player to help bring off the bench, to give them that spark, that energy, that what Dillon Brooks did, and that would be Russell Westbrook. And I know the history between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, the OKC days nearly a decade ago, but Russell Westbrook can still contribute offensively off the bench. He's a leader that has been around the league for quite some time now, former MVP, former triple-double king, and his prime days in the NBA. I don't think this is a bad idea to consider bringing in Russell Westbrook, who is a free agent and probably won't re-sign with the Denver Nuggets based on the moves that they made so far in free agency. Why not try this out? And I think Ime Udoka is going to show you guys why he's still one of the best coaches in the NBA. And he's going to have his full fingerprints all over this Rockets team next year. I am really believing in what the Rockets can do and their capability when they're fully healthy next year, heading into the NBA season. And also, let's talk about DeAndre Ayton signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. And DeAndre Ayton was waived by the Portland Trail Blazers, bought out of his contract, and he signed a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think this is a good pickup for the Lakers. They finally get the big man that they want, playing alongside LeBron James and Luka Doncic. They got DeAndre Ayton, who is a former first-round pick and was a part of the Phoenix Suns' success a few years ago when they got to the NBA Finals with the trio of Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton. And a lot of people must have forgotten who DeAndre Ayton was, playing with the Portland Trail Blazers, who were bottom feeders of the Western Conference after they traded away players like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum over the last few years. He still averaged a double-double last season, but I don't think he's that player that he once was in Phoenix. The Lakers still get the big man that they need. He could play alongside LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and they were killed by size in the first round to the Minnesota Timberwolves when they were gentlemen swept in the first round. So getting a big man finally in DeAndre Ayton instead of running as a starting center with Jackson Hayes is going to benefit the Los Angeles Lakers for the duration of the NBA season next year. And fun fact also, this is actually LeBron James's 9th first overall pick that he's played with in his NBA career. That is actually mind-boggling to me. You played with a total of now 9 first overall picks in NBA draft since you've been in the league. That is actually wild for the king, LeBron James. Wild stat. Final thing I'll talk about in this segment, which was Mike Brown becoming the new head coach of the New York Knicks. So the Knicks have finally found their new head coach. Honestly, I like the signing of Mike Brown coming into New York. I think he could bring the best out of this New York Knicks team. And Mike Brown, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he might not be the best coach in the league, but he is not a damn scrub. And he has the experience of being a proven winner in the NBA. He helped the Cleveland Cavaliers get to the NBA Finals in the early 2000s. He's a 2-time Coach of the Year. Spent a lot of time with the Golden State Warriors on that, being an assistant coach, being a part of that Golden State Warriors dynasty run with Steve Kerr was his boss in the Bay Area. And also, let's not forget the run that he had with the Sacramento Kings before everything fell apart, when he helped them become the 3rd overall seed in the Western Conference and helped them get to the playoffs for God knows how long a few years ago. And Mike Brown, he's going to benefit being the New York Knicks head coach over Tom Thibodeau. He's going to use less isolation ball. Tom Thibodeau loved to run isolation plays with his point guards over the years and his time with the Chicago Bulls, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the New York Knicks. He's going to take the pressure off of Jalen Brunson scoring offensively, and he's going to hold the New York Knicks players accountable. This is not a guy that will put a pass fire in his mouth and let things play out. No, he's going to hold his players accountable, whether they're doing good, bad, or he can see better potential out of them. The ball movements, it's going to be very effective for this New York Knicks team offensively. He's known for his ball movement, coaching on the sidelines, and I think the New York Knicks, he's going to bring the best out of his players defensively. I think at times the defense lacked and showed their defensive efforts showed that on the court at times throughout the 82 games in the regular season and the stretch during the playoffs, and also will use his rotation well. I don't think we're going to see starting players play over 32 minutes or more, running their legs into the ground. I think he's going to use the depth of players like Jordan Clark, who they just brought in during free agency, McBride. I think he's going to have a system that allows the New York Knicks to succeed. Again, hold them accountable. The ball movement is going to be much better. Use the depth. And he's not going to run a whole lot of isolation plays to make Jalen Brunson tired or fatigued throughout the NBA season. So I think Mike Brown is a good head coach. I still would have tried someone like Michael Malone, but I think Mike Brown was one of the best options left available for the New York Knicks to sign as their next head coach. But those are my thoughts on what is currently happening in NBA free agency right now.